there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Now, I did a video a little while ago on using some ripped paper for cards, and if I can remember, I will link that one down in the description box below. But I decided to do a kind of another version of that, and these are just really quick, easy cards. We are going to be making a couple of them today, so I'm going to make a couple of backgrounds to go first. This is my new watercolor paint set, and this is just a really small, compact set that I kind of did a little bit of research into, and I've been really enjoying using this. This video was actually filmed about 4 or so weeks ago, and I've been really enjoying using this in my card making. I am definitely no watercolor artist, far from it, but I did want a set of watercolors that were kind of nice and versatile and that I would be able to use for what I needed them for. These seem to be very pigmented, so kind of not too much filler in the paints, and that is really good for me. I'm enjoying using these. I'm enjoying that I can kind of water them down and get a really soft tone, or add lots of it and get a really deep saturated color, so that was what I was looking for. I am just doing a really basic background here of adding a rainbow. And I just thought I would show you this one because it's kind of a nice, easy, achievable look. And then the next one that I'm going to do is honestly just a whole lot of colour plonked down. And it doesn't even necessarily look very good. When you look at it, you're kind of, it's one of those backgrounds that you create and you think, I'll just put that in the pile over here for now. So it's one of this technique with using the ripped vellum and ripped papers and things is one that you can really take any background and you kind of almost take the focus off the background and it becomes exactly that. So you can have a look through your stash. I know that we've all got a little pile of those kind of pieces that we created but we didn't super love at the time, or they weren't exactly what we were kind of looking for. So this is a really good technique for those kind of pieces. Now, if you do end up liking this technique and you would like to show me, or would like to post some photos, then my Facebook group is the best place that you are able to do that. I will leave a link down below, and we have an amazing group of people there. There is more than 8,000 members at the moment, and I am just really proud of the community that is there. It is such an amazing, supportive place to all share our card making interests. So I will leave a link to that group down in the description box below. And then here is the second background. Now I am just using blues, greens, purples, and I have sprayed down this piece of watercolor paper. I am using the Tim Holtz watercolor paper. That's the one that I always use. It's the only one I have, in fact. And I really like it because of the color, the bright white color that it is. It goes really well with the Recollections brand of paper that I use as card bases. It also goes really well with the Nina Solar white card bases, which I used to use, and I'm still kind of in the process of using all of those up. I have shifted on to using the Recollections brand of cardstock for my card bases and things because it is available locally in the shops local here, and yeah, it is much easier to find, and honestly it is a really good quality. I'm enjoying the £110 one, but in saying that, I really love the Nina Solar White. I just I have a lot of problem accessing it, and then having to pay for things like shipping is just extremely expensive. I have tried many brands and purchased so many brands of white cardstock for bases and things, and honestly I've never ever found one I liked. And then one of my dear friends, Nicole, she suggested that I try this one. She thought that it was good, and I tried it and I really like it. So that is what I pretty much use now, except for just trying to use up the last little bit of my stash of my Nina. And anyway, back to this card, you can see I added a whole lot of colours. I even added some greens next to purples, which is really risky because you can create mud, and I just had a whole lot of fun. This is just no technique and no kind of skill involved in creating that second background there, and so that is just, it's okay, and I promise you, even though it doesn't look like too much now, I really like the outcome of the card. So I am popping this in my stamping platform. This is the Press to Impress one, and it is available in the Craft Stash UK and US stores. Then I am using this sentiment here. This is the Waffle Flower Happy Birthday sentiments, a really nice big bold sentiment to go in the middle, and then a little kind of sub-sentiment that will go up the top. These stamps are both from the same set, which makes it easy. And as I said, I'm using a stamping platform, but you really don't have to. Acrylic blocks work just fine, and I am a big fan of using them. But seeing as I had this here and it was out, I did use my anti-static powder bag beforehand because I'm going to be doing some heat embossing with the VersaMark sticky embossing ink, and then going over this with some bright white embossing powder. This one is the super fine one. I do recommend that you get the super fine one because that way you can do nice bold intense images, whereas you can also do the detailed images that have really fine lines and things, so it kind of does both, and I think the Superfine does a really good job of that. And then here is where we are going to start turning these into cards. So I have some vellum here. This happens to be the Lawn Fawn vellum, but I'm sure plenty of them will work. This vellum rips really, really well, and I'm going to kind of rip a almost rough looking edge. I'm going for a little bit of a rough edge. I don't want this to be perfectly straight. I want it to have that torn look. And that's okay if this kind of look is not for you. You could definitely use a die to kind of cut out a nice pattern at the bottom of the vellum and layer up that way. But honestly, this just takes so few tools, and I have my hands ready to do this, so I don't need to do anything extra. But if, as I said, if this is not your look, then you can also do some really cool things using dies to die cut your paper and your vellum as well. So then I have taken a couple of pieces of paper and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm just ripping the edge until I kind of like the look of it, and then I kind of hold it up against my image and I might rip a little bit more and kind of get it to look how I want it to look. Then I am going to add some double-sided tape onto the back and layer these up. Now just ignore your vellum in the back. Don't even look as to kind of where you're placing it, because these pieces are longer than we need, and you can see the vellum is actually super wobbly. It's not even on there straight, but all that matters is the front edge of it, and that's how I want it to look. So I'm just using the double-sided tape because I know that it's nice and strong and it's going to have a really strong hold, and we can cut off the excess soon. I am going to pop these ones up on some foam tape, although you could definitely pop these down flat. That would look fine as well. Now my card front here, the one that I did the rainbow on, and I have cut that down already to be 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and that way it'll have a nice little border on my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base. So I didn't need the rainbow to go right to the top, so that's why I kind of left it there, and I was planning that all along, but it is covered up and nobody will know that we only went partially part of the way down. And then I'm just going to pop these on. Again, ignore where they are on your page as long as it looks good from the front, and then we will cut everything off from the back and kind of square it all up. I thought the foam tape might be a little bit tough to go through on my paper trimmer, so a nice pair of long bladed scissors works really well here. These ones are the Tim Holtz 9.5 inch scissors, and these ones are really good. They are non-stick and all of those things, so they work pretty well. Occasionally you do need to clean the adhesive off of the blades and things, but that kind of is the case with all scissors. I've done my little trick with the 4 pieces of the 4 little tabs sticking out the side, and that way I can get it lined up perfectly on my card front. And that is card number 1 pretty much done. If you wanted to jazz this up a little bit, you could definitely add some gems or some enamel dots or something like that on there, and that would also look cool. But we're going to work on the second one here, and this is the one that I was kind of like, it's an interesting background. It's one of those ones that I kind of look at. But I did do that on purpose because this is truly one of those designs where the background becomes the background, and everything in the foreground is really what we end up looking for. So here I'm going to do a similar process. I did choose to use the other sentiment that is in this stamp set. Again, a really nice big bold sentiment to go on the front, and I thought just because this background was so kind of all over the place that I would use the nice solid one for this one. And for this one I actually choose to use some gold embossing powder. Either would work. I just thought I would show you a slightly different variation. Now you can see it actually didn't stamp perfectly. I did use my stamping platform, but that doesn't mean that mistakes can't be made. But I will show you how to fix that. So I'm just going to melt this first. So even though it's got that little mistake, the A doesn't really have any embossing powder on it. And it does look really nice, but luckily because I used my stamping platform, I am able to just put this straight back in. I know that it was in the corner of my stamping platform, so I can just line everything up and stamp down again using the same VersaMark and making sure that I particularly get that A at the end. Give it a little press down, and then I can just add the same gold embossing powder. And then honestly, when you add a second layer of embossing powder, it really does smooth out the embossing. It does make for a really nice smooth look. So if you have the energy to do embossing twice, then it does usually look really, really good. And in this case, I was kind of forced to do it, but I do like the results as well. I've done exactly the same thing with the white card and then the vellum, and I didn't like how it was sitting here, so I just thought I would rip a little bit more off. And you can keep adjusting it. That's the best thing about this technique. Just keep ripping it until you kind of get the nice rip that you are after. I'm going to put this on the top and the bottom. Again, I'm not worried about where the pieces are. I'm just going to make sure that I trim all of that off afterward. And I really like the gold sentiment on this one. I also embossed a little bit in white as well. But I am going to have to remember to send this to an American friend or something, because it has got the favourite spelt without the U, which we spell it O-U-R-I-T-E. But I still really like this card, and I really like how it came out. I'm going to put this on the same card base, and which is the 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and this is the Recollections brand one. And then again, you could add gems or anything else, but honestly, just like this, these cards look really good, and it is a nice, quick, easy, simple design for your card making. I will put links to all of the supplies down in the description box below. If there is something in particular that you are looking for, then have a look down there to see if you can find the link to it. Otherwise, it has probably been discontinued. But other than that, I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye!